This episode of Hot Cup Cold Case contains disturbing details about a violent crime and may not be appropriate for some listeners. I'm Brant.
I'm Rachel.
And this is Hot Cup,
Cold Case,
where we share with you the two things that keep us up at night. And the first is a hot cup of caffeine, and the second is a cold case. So we each have a hot cup of tea, and Rach is going to share with us a cold case that I know nothing about, and then I'm going to share a story about a closed case that she knows nothing about. And then we'll end the episode with a short but strange criminal case we like to call a mugshot. But before we get into that, I just have to say, Happy Valentine's Day, babe.
Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Isn't this romantic?
It is.
Talking about true crime inside of a blanket fort.
That's right. I can't picture a better Valentine's Day than recording in our fort with you.
We really know how to set the mood, don't we? No, Rach and I actually celebrated Valentine's Day a week early.
At our favorite spot.
But we did do something special for our daughter today.
Oh yeah, it was super fun.
We led her on her very first scavenger hunt here at the apartment.
To her little Valentine's basket we prepared for her.
So we put clues all around the house, and she had to follow the clues to find her Valentine's basket. And she was super into it.
Oh yeah, she was. But you were at work, so I'm the one that had to draw all the clues. Well, I am not the artist in the family. It is definitely Brant, so they both had trouble even figuring out what my clues meant.
So, Rach, I heard your hero performed at the Oscars this week.
Okay, I think it's a little much to say he's my hero, but I do have this strange, obsession with him.
True, obsession might be the better word. For those of you who don't know, my wife is obsessed with Marshall Mathers, otherwise known as...
A minute. I am determined, now that I live in Michigan, to meet Marshall. I believe it is fate. So Marshall, or Mr. Mathers, if you are listening to this, by any chance, I would love to sit down and chat. Maybe even have you on the podcast. Especially now that your new album is called Music to Get Murdered By. But that's okay.
That is true. Rach is getting flustered just talking about him.
Oh, stop it.
Knees weak, palms are sweaty. There's vomit on her sweater already.
Okay, stop.
Mom's spaghetti.
Oh, God. I'm so embarrassed. You're butchering it. Anyway, so yes, he performed at the Oscars, and at 47 years old, people...
47?
Yes, I thought he did great.
He didn't just do good for a 47-year-old.
No, just
I thought
in
he
general.
sounded just as angry as he did in 1999.
I'll give you that, yes. I don't know. I was impressed. I thought it was great.
I was impressed as well.
You do you, Marshall. I'm proud of you. Okay, so real quick before I start my cold case, I have a couple shout outs. I can't remember if I did a shout out to my sister, but she was super mad that I didn't before. So shout out to my sister Amber.
Hey, Amber.
Thank you for being such a great fan and sharing
And also
our
a great
podcast.
sister.
Yes, yes.
Fan comes first.
That's what's important right now, okay? Just kidding. Thank you for sharing the podcast and constantly putting some hype behind it. We really do appreciate that. And then shout out to both my Emilys with a Y and a double E at the end. You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Yes, Rach always talks about how complicated it gets talking to both of you at the same time on Instant Messenger.
Instant Messenger? What is this, AOL?
Is that not what it's called?
No, it's texting. What is that?
What is wrong with me?
I don't know.
I just called it Instant Messenger.
I know, you're like
a
80.
true 90s kid.
Gosh, what's wrong with you?
Emily's, send us your screen name.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and I don't know if I've ever did a shout out to my bestie, Crystal. Thank you for being the best ever and always encouraging us. You were like our number one first fan, and we're so thankful for you. All right, so today I have a cold case for you, and this one is very, very strange. I'm sure you've noticed. I've noticed it about myself. I always like to emphasize things, so I say them twice.
Oh,
So-
I've noticed.
Well, I know you've noticed. I don't know if our podcasters have noticed.
I usually edit out the second time you say
That
things.
is rude. I am emphasizing things. They need to hear my heart and my passion.
Our
That
podcast
is rude.
would be twice as long if I just...
That's rude. Rude. Are you going to edit out that one too?
I'll definitely edit out the second rude.
Okay. I think I'm going to start editing the podcast. So rude. This one it's strange. It's not as dark and...
Oh, good, because after the Angel of Death a couple weeks ago, I need a break.
I know, I did start realizing I do tend to pick these really dark cases. This one, it's just weird. For the most part, it's just super, super weird. So my story takes place on Valentine's Day too, but in 2000. So 20 years ago today, in Shelby, North Carolina, a beautiful little 9-year-old girl was sleeping in her bed in a room that she shared with her brother. Somewhere between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., she was seen by 2 different motorists walking down the desolate Highway 18 wearing a white outfit.
What?
Yeah. Obviously a very bizarre scene for anyone that saw her. She's 9 years old, walking down the street alone in the wee hours of the morning. And it's February, so it's chilly, and she doesn't have a coat on. She just has like a long white sleeve t-shirt and white pants. One motorist said that he circled back around, but when he tried to communicate with her, she ran off into the woods.
Oh my God, I just got chills.
Yes.
That kind of freaked me out.
And that was the last sighting of Asha Degree since 2000.
What?
Yes.
Rach, this story's freaking me out.
I know, but it's not as gory, so...
It sounds like a ghost story.
I know, it's weird.
The last thing I want to see on a desolate highway is a little girl, and when I ask her if she needs help, have her run off into the woods.
I know.
It's really scary, but also, this poor little girl was probably terrified.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that too, because it's strange. I mean, what I just said in just a few sentences, that is literally the case. Obviously, now I'll back up and give you some details that are like surrounding that. So her parents, Aquila and Harold Degree, were both happily married. They worked hard to provide for their 2 children. They made sure to keep them active in church and in sports, but they were committed to giving their kids a pretty sheltered life. They didn't even have a computer at home because the parents were very cautious about pedophiles on the internet.
Oh, wow.
Aquila said every time she turned on the news, it just seemed to always be someone that was getting baited on the internet. And
Well,
she's like, I don't want that for my children.
I can't really argue with Aquila.
Yeah, it's true. I can't either. They made sure that their children understood the same healthy fear of strangers in everyday life too, not just on the internet.
Hey, I get it. We have a little girl, and it is really hard trying to teach her to see the good in everyone and also trust no one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't fault them at all.
I feel like Donald Sutherland from The Italian Job. I'm like, trust everyone, daughter. Just don't trust the devil inside them.
We don't have to have copyright stuff for that, right?
To quote Donald
Yeah.
Sutherland? No,
Well,
I don't
no.
think he's going to sue us.
Okay, good.
Donald, we love you.
And you won't make anything if you sue us anyway.
Donnie, we have no money.
No.
Please don't come after us.
So Asha was in the 4th grade and was a student at Falston Elementary School. And this particular weekend was a 3-day weekend for the kids. The parents had to work on that Friday leading into the long weekend. So Aquila's sister watched the kiddos and took them to their basketball games. Asha was a star basketball player, and this specific game, she fouled out, believing herself to be the reason for them to lose for the very first time of the season.
Aww.
So she took it pretty hard, and all her team was crying after. But Asha had to wait for her brother's game to finish, and his game was after hers. So she had quite a bit of time to grieve it, and then she got over it. So she seemed to be in good spirits again. Both her parents said she seemed to be just fine, wasn't really focusing on the loss anymore. On Sunday, February 13th, the family went to church as usual and went to a family member's house after church for lunch. There, Aquila's mom gave them candy for Valentine's Day. So remember that. It will come back in the story.
Okay.
When they got home that night, Harold had to go into work because he worked nights, and the bedtime routine started. Usually Aquila always bathes the kids before bed, but that night there was a nearby wreck that caused the power to go out, which if the power's out, you can't have hot water or see. So
Right.
Aquila decided, you know what, I'll just set the alarm at 5:45 in the morning and I'll just have to get them up really early before school to bathe them, which that's a lot of commitment because I would have just been like, well, you're just going to stink Monday morning. I'm not getting
True.
up any earlier.
True. That's how I would have handled that as well.
Yeah, so the kids were in bed by 8, so they were fast asleep. Asha shared a room with her brother, O'Brien. The power came on around 11:30 that night. Harold gets home, I guess, around that time, so he checked on the kids, and both of them were sleeping in their bed. So he checked on his kids again at 2:30 before he went to bed. And again, he saw them both sleeping.
Okay.
So Aquila woke at 5:45 a.m. to get the kids ready for their bath and realized very quickly that Asha was nowhere to be found. She immediately called her in-laws' house because they lived across the street, hoping, for some reason, Asha would be over there. But she wasn't there. So immediately she called the police. By 6:40, the police officers were on the scene with a canine unit. But they couldn't pick up a scent because that night was also a very bad storm.
She was out in a storm?
Yeah, so it gets weirder. O'Brien says that he heard Asha's bed squeak and assumed she was just switching positions or going to the bathroom. It didn't alarm him. So he just went back to sleep. It's assumed at this time, though, that Asha got out of bed, took a backpack that she had already packed previously with several sets of clothing and personal items, and she left her house on foot, locking the door behind her.
What?
It's at this time, somewhere between 3:45 and 4:15, that those motorists saw her on Highway 18.
Where was she going?
We don't know. Highway 18 would take you into the town, I guess, but there's still no reason for her to be on the highway in the wee hours of the morning alone.
Right.
By 7 a.m., friends and family in the church congregation where they attended were all searching for Asha. The police immediately got a picture of her to the media, and that's when the two motorists report separately to the police of their sighting of her. And the police believe that they saw the same person because of the details of what she was wearing and the time, so they think they're both valid sightings.
Well, yeah, and how many little girls were wandering down that deserted highway in the middle of the night?
Right. So you mentioned being so surprised it was raining. Well, what's crazy is that Asha's family, friends, anyone that knows her knows that she's deathly afraid of the dark, dogs, and of storms. So why would you willingly just pack up your stuff and walk out the door into literally the unknown?
This is really weird.
And I think it's great that those motorists called 911 after they saw the media report about it. But if you thought it was so strange when you saw her on the highway, strange enough to circle back and try to get this little girl's attention, why would you not go call the police? Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And another thing about those motorists is obviously Asha realized that motorist was a stranger. At least that's what it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And when he circled back around to come talk to her, she ran to get away from him. So if she has enough understanding of that, why are you walking in the middle of the night?
Right.
It's crazy. So as far as I know, there is no questions concerning those two motorists. And none of this can really be explained.
And she had never done anything like this before?
No, absolutely not. Many scenarios had to be considered. You know, was she a runaway? Were the parents involved? Was O'Brien involved? Which the parents and O'Brien, I don't think they were really ever on the radar other than having to do that due diligence. So the NCBI, which is the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation, also got involved with the FBI. And they quickly ruled out that she could be a runaway.
Why?
Well, it's their belief that she couldn't be a runaway. I guess they couldn't 100% rule it out, but It doesn't make sense. Most runaways don't even run away until they're 12. She was 9. 3 years is a big difference when it comes to maturity. And she had a great home life. Her parents loved her. They were still together. She was an excellent basketball star. She was great in school. From the outside looking in, everything really did seem great. So there was no trauma that anyone could see to point to her running away.
So their thought is maybe she did leave the house on her own, but she was planning on returning and something happened.
We don't know. On February 15th, candy wrappers were found in a shed at a nearby business along the highway where Asha had been running into the woods. Along with those was a pencil, a marker, and a Mickey Mouse shaped hair bow that belonged to Asha.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Okay, so this is my theory, and it's just my theory. Because she was so sheltered and did not easily trust people, she had to have been coaxed by someone that she knew. And this makes sense to me because why would she go to this random shed that belongs to a business and eat candy and just wait there? Maybe she was instructed to go there to wait on someone.
That is a creepy thought.
What the police think too is that it seems as if someone maybe had been grooming her to leave her home and meet them somewhere. So on February 16th, Asha's mom noticed what clothing of Asha's was missing. Because I told you that she had pre-packed a bag?
Yeah.
So she had packed a bag with all of her favorite things.
Mm-hmm.
So like her favorite clothing items were now missing from the house. So it's believed that she picked those specific items to take with her wherever she was going.
Okay.
So at the 7-day mark, there has already been 9,000 man-hours that have been invested in this 2 to 3 mile radius where she was last seen. Posters have been posted everywhere, resulting in 300 different leads. So, like I said before, the FBI and the NCBI were invested in this case and they searched every lead that came their way, but nothing substantial to go off of, and the search had to be called off. Now I'm going to jump ahead a year and 6 months. So on August 3rd, 2001, a farmer was tilling his land or excavating on his property or doing something and realizes that he's uncovered this object. It's a black trash bag, and inside the black trash bag is another black trash bag. Inside of that black trash bag was Asha's backpack.
What? Oh my God. It was buried?
On his property. It was off of Highway 18, about 26 miles north of Shelby. So,
oh my God. I have such a bad feeling.
What I don't understand is why would you preserve the backpack? Who goes through that much trouble to put the backpack in a bag and then put it in another bag and then bury it? What's also crazy is that this farmer had no idea about this case. I don't know how, because it's a small town. So he almost disregarded it and just threw it away. So it wasn't until the following day at breakfast that he's talking to his wife about the find. And she's like, "What? You have to call the cops right now. I think that belongs to that little missing girl."
Oh, wow.
And it did, because it had her name on it. So the FBI took it, tested it, and they have never released the results. So there could be something or there could be nothing. Now in 2004, so 3 years after the backpack was found, acting on a tip received from an inmate at the county jail, the sheriff's office began digging at an intersection in Lawndale. There were bones that were found, but they turned out to be animal bones. So again, there's nothing on this case. There's no sighting of her. There are no leads anymore. There's nothing. At least nothing that we know as the public. There could be stuff they're not sharing, obviously, with the backpack, but there's been nothing else.
So it's possible that she could still be alive if they haven't found a body.
So lastly, in October of 2018...
18 years later now?
Yes. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office appealed for more information from the public about 2 items of interest in the case. 2 items that were found in her bag.
Okay.
So they did release a little bit of information. One of the items was a book by Dr. Seuss called McElligot's Pool. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Which was borrowed from the Falston Middle School library in early 2000 in a t-shirt with a New Kids on the Block logo on it. An investigator said these items are critical to solving the case because neither of those appeared to have been her property before they were found in her bag.
Oh my God. Ugh. So she must have met somebody at some point.
Yes.
So somebody knows something.
Somebody has to know something.
Gosh.
But that is all the information that we have. As of right now, she disappeared without a trace. It just breaks my heart.
But her parents and police still believe that she left the house of her own accord?
Well, it seems that way because the door was locked. So she had to have used her key to lock the door on her way out. And when those two motorists saw her, 45 minutes after her dad saw her, there's nothing that suggests that she was taken from the house.
She was alone.
And yeah, she was alone. But they don't think it was a runaway situation. She was too fearful, but also too wise, even at 9 years old, to know that, like, that's a terrible idea. So that's what baffles investigators. No one understands what this little girl was doing and where she was going and who was meeting her. It's so weird.
Remember when I told you about Lassant prison in Paris and the horrible living conditions there?
Yeah.
And how it also housed some of France's most notorious criminals?
Yeah.
Well, while I was researching that prison, I came across perhaps one of the most notorious French criminals of all time. And so tonight, I'm going to introduce you to one of those men, a man that came to be known as the man with 1,000 faces.
Oh, okay.
Buckle up. So on a Friday afternoon in 1979, a bearded, middle-aged man in a gold BMW was driving through Paris with his girlfriend and her dog. The two were on their way to Normandy for the weekend when a blue truck with a canvas-covered cargo bed, you know, like a army truck,
Oh, yeah.
suddenly pulled in front of them. And before the man and his girlfriend even had time to realize what was happening, the canvas cover at the back of the truck parted, revealing 4 men inside with rifles.
What?
The men suddenly fired 52 shots into the gold BMW.
What?
14 of which struck the head and chest of the man in the driver's seat, killing him instantly.
Oh my gosh.
Innocent bystanders were shocked when the assassins revealed that they were, in fact, undercover police officers.
Okay.
And the driver of that gold BMW, who had disguised his appearance, by the way, with a fake beard and a wig, was none other than France's public enemy number 1, the notorious Jacques René Mesrine.
Wow. So wait, you're talking about the dead guy, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you were trying to tell me that the woman was actually a man.
No. His girlfriend survived, and I'll tell you more about her in a moment.
Okay.
But first, how cool of a name is Jacques?
How do you spell Jacques?
Well, if I say it the way it's spelled and really lean into my American accent, it would be Jacques.
Oh, we run everything.
So Jacques was a self-proclaimed anarchist and revolutionary who managed to evade police for nearly 2 decades across 6 different countries and on 3 different continents. He robbed banks, kidnapped millionaires, murdered government officials,
What?
and escaped nearly every prison that ever housed him.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Mesrine was born in 1936 and grew up in the Parisian suburb of Clichy. I think that's how you say it. I know it sounds cliche. As the son of a wealthy fabric merchant, he developed a love for films and books about American gangsters.
Me
and
too.
Eminem. And he even got expelled from a Catholic school once for assaulting the headmaster.
Oh gosh.
That's totally something Marshall would do.
Don't talk about Marshall like that.
In 1955, when he was 19, Mesrine married a girl named Lydia, and a year later he volunteered as a paratrooper commando in the armed forces. He fought in one of the most brutal of all of France's colonial wars and became one of the soldiers tasked with executing Algerian prisoners after they had been tortured.
Oh, no.
Although he received a medal for valor when he returned home 3 years later in 1959, his father said he was never, quote, quite right after that. And his mother said, quote, it was Algeria that changed him. He came back a different boy.
Oh, I mean, it would have to change you.
I don't think you ever really do come back from something like that.
No.
Well, Mesrine soon divorced his wife Lydia and went to work as a textile salesman. And he began drinking in bars and fraternizing with members of Paris's criminal underworld who frequented those bars. And he made a living by playing poker, committing burglaries, and was eventually introduced to the outer fringes of a terrorist group known as the Organisation Armée Secrète, or the Secret Army Organization. Within a couple years, he was married again, this time to a Spanish girl named Maria.
Oh, Lord.
I just met a girl named Maria. What movie is that from, Rach?
Hold on, I know it. Hold on. Don't tell me. It's right here.
On the tip of your tongue?
Yes, I know it. Hold on.
Are you sure it's not on the west side of your tongue?
No, don't. I was going to say the West Side Story. I literally was.
I believe you. I believe you.
And I wanted you to be so proud of me. It's rude.
I've been testing Rach like this for the past 11 years of our marriage. I love West Side Story. Really, any musical.
Literally any musical.
So he marries Maria, and the two had 3 children together. A short time later, Mesrine was arrested for bank robbery and sentenced to prison for 18 months. And it's during that time that his wife, Maria, actually attempted to commit suicide.
Oh, no.
And she eventually left him. Mesrine's parents took care of their 3 children, and they tried to help Mesrine by offering him the opportunity to manage an inn. But the establishment quickly became a den of thieves, and Mesrine eventually got involved with an Italian crime family, for which he became a robber and a hitman.
So the mob?
Yeah. Around this time, Mesrine met a prostitute named Jean Schneider, and the two fell in love. One article I read said that his first words to her were, quote, me Tarzan, you Jane.
Okay.
Do you remember what my first words to you were?
Oh, I remember very vividly.
We met at that New Year's party, and you were having an allergic reaction to that cat.
Yes. You told me you look terrible. Would you like to go outside?
And I remember
so romantic.
You responded to me by saying, I don't want to go out there alone. And I was like, well, I'll sit with you. So I grabbed a bowl of peanut M&Ms. We sat on the porch.
And you talked about another girl the entire time.
It was really romantic up until that point.
Very romantic.
Back to Mesrine and Jean. So the two became partners in crime and eventually fled to Quebec, Canada. In 1968, Mesrine and Schneider began working for a handicapped millionaire named Georges Deslauriers. Schneider was employed as Deslauriers' nurse and Mesrine as his chauffeur. 5 months later, the two were fired and retaliated by kidnapping the handicapped millionaire and demanding $200,000 in ransom from his family. Deslauriers managed to escape, and the Canadian press labeled Mesrine and Schneider as the French Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, wow.
They crossed the border into Detroit in 1969,
What?
but were eventually arrested in Arkansas. And the two were then extradited back to Canada and sentenced to 10 to 15 years in a high-security prison. 3 years into his prison sentence, Mesrine and an accomplice, Jean-Paul Mercier, broke out of prison and began robbing banks a week later.
Man, they just can't stop.
It was during this time that Mesrine became known as the man with 1,000 faces. So he became a master of disguise. And I'm going to have to show you some photos as well as post them on our Instagram because it's
I wanna
pretty
see
wild.
it.
Well, he would grow a beard, shave his head, wear glasses, and he would even wear 3 wigs at the same time so he could instantly change his appearance.
That's crazy.
It's really quite ingenious. And he was incredibly bold. After robbing a bank, he would often wait outside until he could hear police sirens approaching. And then, while officers were busy responding to the heist, he would go down the street and rob another bank a short distance away because he knew all the cops were busy. He even robbed one bank in Montreal twice in 72 hours.
No way.
Yes. A year later, in 1972, in an attempt to free his convicted comrades, Mesrine attempted to break back into the Canadian prison he had escaped from.
Why?
To free his friends. He probably asked himself, what would Eminem do?
Stop it! You're so stupid. Oh, it's Mr. Mathers to you, buddy.
Well, he didn't succeed in freeing his friends, but he did seriously wound 2 police officers in the process.
Okay, but did he get caught and he went back to prison, or did he get himself back out but with no friends?
He got away.
Again?
Yeah.
I mean, dear Lord.
And he returned to France, where he continued his string of robberies. And then less than a year later, he was arrested again. And during his court hearing, Mesrine feigned a bout of sudden diarrhea
God.
and asked to be escorted to the bathroom. He then surprised everyone when he emerged from the toilet with a loaded gun that an accomplice had hidden in the tank for him.
No.
And he took the judge hostage.
No.
And using him as a human shield, he escaped and
No.
fled to a seaside resort on the coast of Normandy.
No.
Yes!
Jacques. This is nuts.
Isn't this wild?
Could you have faked another ailment, though? This was a disgusting one. Did the job, though.
Well, a few months later, Mesrine robbed 2 more banks. But the day after the heist, he woke up to find his entire apartment building surrounded by police. So police chief Robert Broussard, who led the arrest, said, quote, "I gave him the choice to come out unarmed or die.
Oh, okay.
He asked if I was Commissaire Broussard with the beard and would I approach unarmed, which I did. He then opened the door with the biggest cigar in his mouth, invited me in, and offered me a glass of champagne."
Okay.
That is a power move.
Yeah, that is a power move.
So Broussard immediately arrested Mesrine, who was soon sentenced to 20 years in La Sante prison.
Oh, okay.
Which, to hear more about that, check out episode 9. During the course of his incarceration, Mesrine openly talked about escaping, which prompted La Sante's prison officials to commission the construction of an entirely new wing designed just to hold him.
No way.
Yeah. And while he was incarcerated, he wrote 2 books. The first one was called The Death Instinct, and in it he wrote, quote, "Some people like golf or skiing. My relaxation is armed robbery."
My gosh. I was gonna say, how many banks does he need to rob? Like, good Lord, did you not get enough?
He also claimed to have murdered approximately 39 people.
Oh, come on,
All
Jacques.
of which were rich, guilty, or armed men.
So he's Robin Hood now? He's like a vigilante or what?
Yeah, he is considered by some French people to be a Robin Hood or anti-hero. And in his second book, Guilty of Being Innocent, he tried to present himself as an existentialist gangster, or in his own words, quote, "a kamikaze of crime."
Okay.
And he wrote, quote, "Stealing becomes a drug. You don't steal for love of cash. You steal for the thrill of risk. You choose to cross the line because you know it means you can never go back. You want to have nothing more to lose so that you're forced to have everything to win."
Okay, Jacques.
Quite poetic.
It is poetic, and he just literally answered my question.
He's this close to becoming the next Eminem.
Stop it.
He also wrote love letters for his young
Of course he
lawyer,
did.
Martine Malenbaum. Mesrine composed...
Martine.
No, Mesrine.
Who's that?
Jacques!
Oh, why can't you just call him Jacques? It's so confusing.
Okay.
Maria, Marine, Martine. It's a little confusing.
Okay. Well, Jacques composed poetic expressions like this for Martine. Quote, "I envy the blind man, whose world does not change when he sleeps. If his life is steeped in darkness, he is at least the lover of shadows. He's quite good.
He's no Eminem. And you're quite good at reciting it.
Am I wooing you on this Valentine's Day with the words of this French Robin Hood?
No, because he still killed 39 people.
Yeah.
I'm not down with that.
True. I once got a love letter from a girl in high school.
Tell me who. I'm going to go find her.
So at the beginning of every English class, there would be a writing prompt written on the chalkboard, and we would have to open up our journals and respond to the writing prompt.
Okay.
And this particular day, the writing prompt was, describe your dream girl or dream guy. And so I wrote in my journal my idea of a dream girl. But she stole my journal that day.
Oh, I remember this girl. You told me about her.
Because she wanted to see what I had written, and she took it home and then wrote a 3-page response in the back of my journal and gave it back to me, telling me that I was basically her dream guy.
And you let her down easy or hard or what?
I tried to let her down easy, Rach. I can't help it that I look this good.
Oh my God.
It's really a curse. Okay, back to Mesrine. 5 years into his 20-year prison sentence, on May 8th, 1978, Mesrine became the first man to ever escape from Lassant. On Monday morning, Mesrine met with his lawyer/crush, Martine, and asked the attending guard to retrieve a file from the cell of another inmate named Francois Bessy. When the guard arrived at Bessy's cell, Francois handed him the document Mesrine had requested and then suddenly sprayed the guard with some kind of tear gas. Bessy then took the guard's uniform and keys and locked him in the cell.
What?
Meanwhile, Mesrine climbed up on the table where he and his lawyer were seated and reached into the ceiling tiles overhead, where he retrieved a couple of guns and a grappling hook, which had been hidden in the ceiling above him by another accomplice. Then, dressed as prison guards, Mesrine and Bessy freed a third inmate named Carmen Rives, and the three of them scaled the prison walls. But Carmen didn't survive the escape attempt. He fell from the wall after being shot in the back by one of the prison guards.
Ow.
And due to the prison's location, right in the heart of southern Paris, Mesrine and Bessy not only escaped, but immediately commandeered a vehicle from someone passing by and disappeared.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So a couple weeks later, the two fugitives robbed a casino in Deauville and ended up seriously wounding 2 people. Police soon organized a task force committed to pursue and capture Jacques Mesrine. A couple weeks later, Mesrine was almost caught when he tried to impersonate a high-ranking officer in order to get his hands on some police uniforms.
What?
Then, a few months later, in November of 1978, he and an accomplice named Jean-Luc Coup attempted to kidnap a judge who had sentenced Mesrine to prison. The 2 men showed up at the judge's house, but were disappointed to learn that he wasn't there. So instead, they took the judge's family hostage.
Oh my gosh.
At one point, they even sprayed one of them with tear gas. And when police arrived, you know how Mesrine escaped?
How?
He was running down the stairs as the police were running up. And as they met on the landing, Mesrine simply pointed upstairs and shouted, "Quick, Mesrine's up there."
No.
And the police simply sped right past him.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This is nuts. He's a quick thinker.
Yes, he is, and brazen. 6 months later, in June of 1979, Mesrine kidnapped Henri Lelivre, a French millionaire, and managed to obtain 6 million francs in ransom, which is approximately $6 million. And then he fled to Portugal for some rest and relaxation.
Oh, okay.
It was like he finally got the big score he was looking for. But a few months later, he came across an article written by a journalist who had experience in law enforcement named Jacques Tillier. And in the publication, Tillier called Mesrine a dishonorable crook. And Mesrine decided to retaliate.
Of course he did.
He promised Tillier an exclusive interview, and the two decided to meet at a remote cavern. But when Tillier arrived, Mesrine stripped him, tortured him,
Oh, God.
and then shot him 3 times.
Oh, my gosh.
According to Mesrine, he shot him once in the face to stop him talking crap, once in the arm to stop him writing crap, and once in the leg for the pleasure of it.
Okay. This took a very, crazy turn.
Yeah. And believe it or not, Tillier survived.
Oh, poor guy.
And he went on to become the editor of a newspaper.
Well, congratulations, Tillier.
A month later, Police Chief Robert Broussard received a tip that Mesrine was living with a new girlfriend named Sylvia.
He goes through women just as fast as he goes through banks.
I'm sorry. That is so true, though.
I know. I'm funny, Brant.
And that the two were planning a weekend getaway to Normandy. Broussard assembled a small armada of 15 vehicles and 50 policemen to stop Mesrine once and for all. So Chief Broussard swears he tried to arrest Mesrine, who had on several occasions jokingly suggested that the police should shoot first and ask questions later. And Chief Broussard insists that the officers that shot Mesrine shouted police before they opened fire. He said, quote, "The police gave him the chance to surrender, but instead of keeping still, he got down out of the way of the machine guns and reached for a little bag where he had 2 hand grenades."
Oh.
But Mesrine's girlfriend, Sylvia, who was in the car with her dog at the time,
Oh, here we go. Full circle.
and who also lost an eye in the
Oh.
shootout, claims that it was straight up an assassination. Afterward, when police searched Mesrine's flat, they found a cache of weapons and ammunitions and an audio tape that Mesrine had recorded for Sylvia. On the tape, Mesrine said, quote, "Hello, darling. If you read this, I'll have been killed by the police, which is nothing we didn't expect. I died with a gun in my hand, and even though I might not have had the time to use it, if I had, I would have."
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then he added, "What is terrible is that some people will try to make me into a hero, and there are no heroes in crime. There are just men out on the edge who do not respect the law."
I couldn't have said it better myself there, buddy.
In the final months leading up to his death, Mesrine was enraged by the actions of the French government, specifically the alleged brutality of state officials and the horrible living conditions in state prisons such as La Sante, where he had been housed. He even threatened to fight a one-man war against the French president's, quote, bourgeois state, starting with its banks. And that's why he was robbing them.
Oh.
And for this reason, he's considered by many to be that Robin Hood anti-hero I was telling you about. So his lawyer, Martine, the one he had composed those love letters and poems for, she actually fought to have the French state condemned for assassinating her client. And her efforts kept a judicial investigation alive until 2006. And then the state was finally cleared without a trial. And several French films have been made about him, and Mesrine is even a popular subject of French rappers.
And there we go.
And the episode has come full circle.
It did. Absolutely.
So I'm actually going to play for you a French rap song about Mesrine. I can't play it for our listeners, but I'm going to put the track and the artist in the show notes. And you need to do yourself a favor and go listen to this song, because it starts off with a saxophone.
Okay.
And it just gets better from there.
Okay.
Isn't that a cool song?
Well, yeah, I can get over the accent, though. It's weird.
You uncultured swine.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Well, that is the case of Jacques Mesrine, the man with 1,000 faces.
Yeah, that was crazy. Well, tonight I have a mugshot for you. So, 45-year-old Donald Chip Pugh was wanted by police in Ohio after failing to appear in court for a DUI charge. And he was also a person of interest in other cases involving vandalism and arson. Police in Ohio posted Pugh's mugshot on Facebook asking citizens to be on alert for him. When Pugh caught sight of the post, he then proceeded to text a picture of himself to the police department. He said the mugshot that they've been posting is a terrible one, and here is a better photo of himself. He was later arrested in Florida.
Oh my God.
It's a short one, but I just couldn't pass it up. Because I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
He's like the real life Flynn Rider from that Tangled movie.
Yes!
When the wanted posters keep getting his nose wrong and it really bothers him.
It keeps making him mad. That's like exactly it. Yes.
Oh my God. Do we have the original mugshot and the one he sent in?
Oh, yeah.
Can we put a side by side on our Instagram?
Oh, absolutely. We can post his mugshot and his preferred photo on our social media.
Yes.
This is the original. This is the one he wants.
He sent in a picture of himself with some aviators on.
Yeah, sunglasses
fly
on.
As hell.
He is in like a car with a sunroof open. It's like leather interior. He's got a collar. He's clean shaven. And he has a face like he ain't messing around. Oh, and he's in a suit.
It literally looks like he sent his Tinder profile pic to the police. Like, hey, use this one.
If you're not happy with your mugshot out there, just go ahead and text a new one into police.
Hey, there's a business idea. We should get into the business of just taking really great mugshots.
Oh, gosh, Brant. So there is a Facebook page out there called Free Chip Pew.
It's like a bunch of single women all trying to get him out of prison.
Oh, gosh. I think mostly they're just poking fun at him.
Oh, okay. Well, just a reminder, guys, we love reading stories from our listeners about some of your most frightening experiences. We did a listener's stories episode a few episodes back, and we really enjoyed it. So if you have a story we could share on the podcast, please send it to us at hotcupcoldcasepodcast@gmail.com.
And even if you don't have a story, please share the podcast with your friends and encourage them to listen too. The more listeners we have, the more stories we can collect and share with you.
Yeah. And if you're enjoying the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or any other streaming service, because the more 5-star ratings and reviews we receive, the easier it becomes for people to find us in their podcast directories.
And finally, for even more things to keep you up at night, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hot Cup Cold Case Podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hot Cup Cold Case is written and produced by Rachael and myself with music by Young Kool-Aid. If you ever need your mug filled
or your spine chilled,
this is Hot Cup
Cold Case.
Did you ever run away as a kid?
I think I packed this little red suitcase that I have. It was quite adorable. And I think I said I was running away. And I just went 2 houses down to my babysitter's. And I always had Tang at her house. Do you remember Tang?
Tang, the drink of astronauts.
What?
That's what astronauts drink.
Why?
Because it's like powdered orange juice.
That's disgusting.
It's literally space food.
I didn't know that.
You just mix water into it. I told my mom I was going to run away once, and she helped me pack my bag.
Oh, God.
I think it's because she knew I wouldn't last long on my own. She was right. I just went down the street to the church at the end of the block and climbed up on the roof. And I remember people seeing me as they were coming into the building and giving me really odd looks.
Yeah, because you're a weirdo. I bet they were very confused.